Moving ahead, we have our second panel discussion themed as hybrid cloud management, overcoming the challenges of integrating private and public environments. And let me introduce all the dignitaries. First up, we have our very first eminent panelist, Mr. Basim Allawati. He is the Senior Manager, Cloud Virtualization, Network, Data Center, Security, Platform at Oman Airports Management Company. And we have our second eminent panelist, Mr. Dr. Armstrong Nhlabatsi, postdoctoral researcher, cloud security modeling and risk assessment, joining us from KINDI Computing Research Center, Qatar University. Our third eminent panelist is Mr. Vikas Kanungo, Senior Consultant, Digital Development Global Practice at the World Bank Group. Our fourth eminent panelist is Mr. Vijay Jaswal, CTO, Middle East and Turkey at Software AG. And our fifth eminent panelist is Mr. Faisal Babu Kavungal, IT Governance and ERM Specialist at Gulf Drilling International Limited, QSC. And lastly, our eminent panel moderator, Mr. Abdul Sathar. He is the Honorable Chairman at the Institute of Engineers India Qatar Chapter and Information Technology Program Project Manager at Qatar Primary Materials Company, also known as QPMC. All the very best to our honorable panelists, and over to you, Abdul, to chair your panel discussion.
Thank you, Bridget. I think the video, okay, you need to allow me to turn on.
No problem.
Anyway, thank you very much for the nice introduction. Most welcome our eminent panelists, Mr. Basim Allawati, Dr. Armstrong Nhlabatsi, Mr. Vikas, Mr. Vijay. Wonderful session we are going to start. Definitely, I think Budget, kindly check my video.
Yes,
okay.
Abdul, if you could just turn on your camera. I mean, we can see the background, but we can't see you.
You cannot start your video because the host has stopped it. This is what the message is coming. Anyway.
Well, let me just quickly take a look at that, Mr. Abdul.
Please allow us a minute. Thank you very much.
The business landscape has evolved. Okay. Thank you.
My bad, Mr. Abdul. Yeah, just waiting to see you.
See you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. The business landscape has evolved, and so have cyber attacks as cyber criminals have heavily capitalized on vulnerable remote and hybrid working arrangements. During the first year of the pandemic alone, 79% of global companies experienced an attack. See, this is a situation now we are discussing about the hybrid cloud and cybersecurity. During this session, our topic is hybrid cloud management, overcoming the challenges of integrating private and public environments. With us today, 4 panelists. We would like to start with Mr. Basim Allawati, and he is one of the senior manager of Oman Airport, and he has very good experience and he's veteran in security field. Let us hear from him that managing and maintaining a hybrid cloud infrastructure presents its own set of challenges, and one among us, this is the inherent complexity associated with such a hybrid setup. What is your view on this? How do we ensure that as IT, we are able to adapt internally to ensure we benefit from the advantages of a hybrid cloud infrastructure? Could you share your thoughts, please, Mr. Basim?
Well, thank you, Mr. Abdul Sathar, and thank you for having me here as a panelist. It's my pleasure being with you guys here. So coming back to your question, Well, definitely, it's a complex journey and not as easy as lift and shift the way they are normally promoting it. Well, I wish it was that, but it is not, unfortunately. In my humble opinion, there are a few key steps that we should address them, which will make our life easier in managing the hybrid cloud complexities. And to start with, we need to start with our own ICT team itself and ensure their readiness from their capabilities perspective, from their skill sets, as they'll not be only managing their day-to-day private cloud, but no, they'll be managing a hybrid cloud, which is the private and the public cloud. Number two, most of our processes and procedures are made for our own private cloud. So now we need to tailor them so they should suit the hybrid cloud environment. There's another key challenge that we really need to focus on, which is the data governance. And I will highlight 2 points over here. Point number one is the data classification. So we really need to carefully classify our data and understand what can be moved to cloud and what should not move to cloud. Number two, we need to know our cloud provider. Why? Because we need to understand what data governance regulations do they follow. For example, in the aviation sector, we need to be GDPR compliant, the General Data Protection Regulation. So I need to understand, is my cloud provider compliant with that? If yes, well and good. If no, do I need to change my cloud provider? Or maybe I need to revisit the systems that I need to migrate to the cloud. Last but not the least, there are some core applications that are used by the IT team. For example, in our network operations center, we have our network management system, which is giving you a bird's eye view on your private cloud. Is this system ready to scale up and give you the same bird's eye view on your hybrid cloud? So we need to check that. The other thing, which is again very, very critical, which is your backup solution, because we agree with our management with certain RPOs and RTOs that we have to meet for particular systems. Is my backup solution ready for a hybrid cloud? Can it provide me the same RPOs, RTOs when I move to the hybrid cloud? So by addressing these few key steps in the journey to the hybrid cloud, I believe moving from the private cloud to the public cloud will be far much easier, and we'll be able to address and tackle all these inherent complexities which comes with the hybrid cloud. Back to you, Mr. Abdul Sathar.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Basim. You covered that the peculiarities of the hybrid cloud management, as well as the challenges which we are facing at this era. It's very good. And it was very informative also, Mr. Basim. While hybrid cloud management do offer a high level of control, flexibility, and security, they also deliver a new level of complexity. Today, we have another eminent panelist with us, Dr. Armstrong, postdoctoral research scholar from Qatar University. I would like to request to share his level of security information about the challenges, known challenges. What are the key security challenges of integrating public and private clouds? And what are the benefits of a hybrid cloud? Could you share some thoughts of security in this era by Mr. Armstrong, please?
Thank you, Mr. Abdul. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for inviting us to be part of this event. Regarding the question of what are the security challenges that are related to the hybrid cloud, there are just so many, but I'll try to focus on a few common ones. So as we know, the distinction between a private cloud and a private cloud is, from a security perspective, is the fact that one has better security than the other. That is, one can be trusted more than the other. The private cloud is more trusted security-wise compared to the public cloud. And then the question then becomes, if you are an organization and you want to decide how do you migrate your data to the cloud, one of the challenges that you need to resolve is what is the data that I'm trying to protect? What are my security requirements? What are my information assets? And what is it that I want to protect about them? And then this helps you to address issues about how do you then classify your data in terms of which can go to a public cloud and which can go to a private cloud. Because obviously you'd want to say that maybe data that is not so security sensitive might be okay to be on the public cloud. Maybe the data that needs to be kept more securely should remain in the private cloud. And in order to be able to address these challenges, you need to then ask yourself, okay, this is what I want to protect about this information assets, and what are the kind of, for example, what kind of security objectives? Am I concerned for this kind of data? Am I concerned about its confidentiality? Am I concerned about its integrity? Am I concerned about its availability? If, for example, I am a bank, maybe I'll be concerned more about the integrity of the transactions that are being done through my system, because if an attacker can be able to alter a transaction from 10 real to 1 million real, then a lot of money can be lost in that transaction. If I'm in the business of health, for example, I'm a hospital, like Hamad, I might decide that maybe confidentiality of my information is more important. Then I may want to protect my confidentiality more. So these sort of labels that you can put on your data can help you in order to be able to classify your data as to which can go to the cloud and which data can go to which can go to the private cloud and which can go to the private. And currently there are no straightforward solutions for doing this kind of decisions, which is one of the major challenges in this area. I will stop there for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful, Dr. Armstrong. Your vision about the challenges in the private and public cloud security part, and the benefit also you just covered a very short span of time. Of course, it's taken more time to explain, and thank you for your vision and your share your skill level on this. As we know, there are many challenges in cloud management, hybrid cloud management especially. Integration is one of the challenge. Hybrid cloud management and monitoring is another challenge. Integration is creating a cohesive environment from private and public clouds requires a deep understanding to where to place the workloads, how to build the infrastructure to support it, and implementing the consistent set of processes and policies. We have another eminent panelist, Mr. Vikas, who is also a senior manager. He has a lot of experience in this field as well, and especially in government sectors. The government, so I would like to know from him the thoughts in hybrid cloud security management that on the cloud government field. The governments are among the biggest users of digital solutions and potential users of hybrid cloud infrastructure. You know that. What strategies they should adopt to leverage availability of private cloud infrastructure, ensuring the security of government operations? Mr. Vikas, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sathar, and also my thanks to the organizers for inviting me. As you rightly said, governments are one of the biggest users of the digital infrastructure already, but in the post-COVID environment, providing the government services in a blended environment to the people, providing a blended working environment to the staff Most of the government agencies are now shifting to the cloud infrastructure. And obviously, as you said, just a private government cloud is no more good enough. And you have to move to a hybrid cloud infrastructure in order to cater to the demand which is now coming for providing a virtual environment. However, I think as you talked about the challenges government faces, the first and foremost is the data within the government is of multiple types. You have public data, you have confidential data, you have official data. It's not just the data, you also have lots of content. So before the governments decide to move to a hybrid cloud infrastructure, I think the first and foremost thing is they will have to now label this data so that it can be decided when formulating the cloud strategy for the government agency as to which data goes on to the public cloud, which remains on the private cloud. Also, the consent management architecture, because most of the data with governments belong to the citizens. And then the governments, when they move this entire thing to a cloud-based infrastructure, need to have a consent management policy where the end users of the data, be them citizens or the government officers or the agencies, decide based upon what consent they want to give for usage of their data for analysis purposes or service provision. Then I think, as you know, there are multiple ministries, multiple government agencies. When you move to a cloud, they have an opportunity to unlock the public value potential of many of their applications by using them across multiple agencies. So giving you an example from India, now each of the verticals, say for example, health, urban, education, have started creating their own stacks of applications. So we have one common stack, which is called India Stack, which is about Aadhaar as the identity of the people, unified payment interface across the country. But for each of the verticals, for urban, there is an urban innovation stack. Then there is a health services stack. There is an education application stack. These stacks are now made available through a cloud environment across multiple organizations. So for governments, when they move to this kind of a cloud environment, ensuring a common set of tools across agencies to manage these cloud infrastructure are very important. Finally, I think soft skills, the government people are, used to the environment of keeping every data within their premises, building their own data centers. Now moving from that standalone kind of a silo-based environment to an integrated environment, public environment, I think lots of capacity needs to be built within the government organizations. Maybe the reskilling of lots of staff to know how to use the public cloud. And finally, I think a strategy for migrating this data onto the hybrid cloud infrastructure with, maybe multiple phases. With that, I think I'll hand it back to Dr. Sathar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vikas. Wonderfully explained about the government sector, how the integration between public and private cloud, the hybrid cloud infrastructure and as well as application security can be worked out. Very good, and a very short span of time again. You are also mentioned the points here, which is wonderful. We have another eminent speaker with us, Mr. Vijay Jaswal, CTO of Middle East and Turkey. We are mentioning that the challenges of hybrid cloud management. So it's applied in both infrastructure as well as applications, security part, as then hybrid governance, different areas. If you look into that, they all are we are facing the challenges about hybrid cloud management. So let us hear from Mr. Vijay that the challenges go further than just integrating private and public cloud, as many still have applications on premise. How can you ensure the smooth flow of data across a hybrid architecture, Mr. Vijay? We would like to hear from you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, interesting question. I think we shouldn't forget about on-premise. I think many of my colleagues earlier have spoken about the fact that many applications, organizations want to keep them on-premise. Okay, so if you look at the existing infrastructure of organizations around you, it's a lot more complex. You go back 10 years, everything was on-premise. Okay, now we've kind of evolved to private data centers, which you could say is still inside the organization's firewall. Public cloud, organizations moving data to public cloud, and also multi-cloud. All right, so the location of an organization's data has all of a sudden, it's become fragmented. It's everywhere. And what we can't forget is the customer. We cannot forget the customer experience. So one thing that we have to ensure in terms of strategy is to ensure that the customer experience does not deteriorate. Now, for me, I really hate it. I live in Dubai. And Dubai, they've got some pretty nice applications. You go and the information is seamless. But there are some organizations, I go on their app, and I'm not going to name who they are, but they've got a lovely mobile app. And you think, wow, this is a really nice app. And you try and transact with this app. Maybe you're trying to get your own information out, or you're applying for something. And that egg timer comes up. It takes ages, seconds, sometimes minutes to get your information back. Why is that? It's basically because when I type in my details, Vijay Jaswal, and I want to apply, I don't know, for a license or a product, in the background, integration is happening between all of this organization's back-end systems, whether they're on premise, whether they're on private cloud, whether they're on public cloud, or even on a partner's enterprise application systems. So what is really important is integration, ensuring that the flow of data between these various different application silos, because sometimes they are silos, is seamless, is efficient, so that the customer doesn't suffer in terms of customer experience. We're all very spoiled by the Amazons of this world, right? The Googles of this world. You interact, the Ubers of this world. You interact, there's no wait time. If you want a taxi, you drop a pin, bang, within split seconds, it tells you taxi's coming, or we're finding a captain for you, or a taxi driver for you. So as consumers, we are very, very fussy. So the seamless connection, that the enterprise has to be connected regardless where this data is. Two ways to do that, right? First is to employ an integration platform that can connect on-premise, cloud, private, public, so a hybrid integration layer. And secondly is ensuring that the processes, the business processes that flow and look after all of these customer interactions are automated, or there are robots helping the users of the organization to conduct these processes. So, for me, I don't think it matters. We've got public cloud, private cloud, on-premise. It's exactly the same. It's just another application that's arrived. It's just in a different location. The business challenge is still the same, ensuring that the enterprise that you work in, whether it's government, private, whether you're a bank or a municipality, the information has to flow seamlessly, efficiently, and in real time to ensure the customer experience. Back to you, Abdul. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. With a short span of time, again, Mr. Vijay is showing something he wanted to present also, and he really applied through his mobile with its the within a millisecond, how the integration is happening and how the applications is distributing the backend structure. He just tried to reveal the scenarios. Wonderful, Mr. Vijay. And I think we are going to Mr. Faisal Babu online. I think it's okay. Now we would like to, again, the second round also we need to start. Mr. Basim again come to the platform. Okay. We wish to hear from Mr. Basim about the Oman airport management, cybersecurity, the implementation, we can say in the governance model, hybrid governance model, how we did that one. So the hybrid governance, if you speak about that, the structure needs to include considerations like on-demand services, rapid elasticity, cloud network access, and resource pooling. Teams can begin with the practice that apply to governing task automation. So different factors is affecting, or we can say the factors of hybrid governance. We would like to hear from you, from your implementation strategy, one of the USPs, unique selling propositions of as a service model hosted in the cloud is the reduced operational cost. In your opinion, and from your experience, where are you likely to see such a cost benefit materialize for an organization with a mature private cloud infrastructure looking to transition to a hybrid cloud infrastructure? What factors must you consider when planning your annual IT expenditure? Mr. Basim, we would like to come here.
Well, thank you, Mr. Abdul Sathar. Very interesting question, because it's very evident, in fact, moving to clouds, I would say smartly, is cheaper in the longer run. Well, at the beginning, it might not look as promising, but longer in the run in the cloud, okay, you can really benefit from all that. Why at the beginning that cannot be showcased? Because you'll be already having your private cloud with its own maturity to meet the business demands already running, and with a buffer as well to meet the extra business demand which comes. So moving to the public cloud should be done at the right time. So what do I mean by that? Now we need to phase our migrations to the public cloud accordingly to our technology obsolescence. So for an example, we have our storages, our servers that we are buying, which comes sometimes with 3 years of warranty or 5 years of warranty. So before their warranty really expires by a year, that's the perfect time for you to start thinking of moving your workload to a public cloud. Why? You need to test it ahead of time. What if that workload that you're moving to the public cloud is not suitable? So you need to revisit your strategy at that time. And you'll get enough time also then to refresh your current private cloud on a reduced footprint as well.
Correct.
Number two, what we need to do to save money as well when going to the hybrid cloud model is never size your public cloud exactly as your private cloud. Why? You just size it for the workload that you want to move it to the public cloud. And the other thing over there is you can meet your demands instantly in the public cloud. So again, a good example can be here, the payroll days. Normally on the payroll days, the ERP systems are heavily loaded. So you can schedule that. You can say that from the 28th to the 30th of the month, I need from 8 CPUs, I want to double them to 16 CPUs. So you'll be only paying for that much of a time because it is pay as you use in the most of the cloud providers. What we need to be careful here that not all applications are suitable to move to cloud because some application may cost you more, in fact, moving to the cloud. Number two, do not give up your private cloud infrastructure. You will still need it because, as we say, not everything can be moved to cloud according to the compliance and regulation that you need to meet as well. Because sometimes these not meeting these regulations might cost you heavier than the savings that you're doing by moving to the hybrid cloud. And just to end that together, that we need to understand that, you know, moving to the hybrid cloud is a step in a milestone. It's a milestone that we need to achieve in a long journey of moving things to the public cloud. Back to you, Mr. Sathar, and I hope I addressed your question.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Basim. You really, practically, you just give some examples also for that. The annual IT the expenditure which we need to move for hybrid cloud management, and how we can reduce the cost of operational cost, OPEX and CAPEX. All you mentioned in your short span of time. Very good and wonderful explanation you gave us in our queries. Thank you very much, Mr. Basim. Dr. Armstrong, I would like to hear some from certain your research work on security of a hybrid cloud. How can be addressed?
Thank you, Mr. Abdul, that's a very interesting question. In my earlier presentation, I mentioned that one of the key challenges with the hybrid cloud from the security perspective is that if you are going in that direction, you want to adopt a hybrid infrastructure, you would want to decide which of my services can go where, which of my data can go where. And one way to decide that is to know what are your security requirements. So in this part, I'm going to address your question by looking at two key approaches that I believe are necessary in addressing these challenges. So one of them is basically, how do you know what your security requirements? Elicitation is one approach that is common in the field of requirements engineering, which is the field that deals with understanding, the branch of software engineering that deals with understanding what the requirements are. But unfortunately, in security, sometimes the requirements can be known too late. We can know that a security requirement has been breached when an attack has already happened. In most cases, it takes a vulnerability to be exploited and an attack to be launched successfully for us to know that we should have closed that, we should have had this particular security requirement in place. Because if we knew that security requirement, we would have put these countermeasures in place to stop that breach from happening. And that's why in most cases, once a breach happens once, a security breach happens once, it's a bit less work to stop it. So the real challenge is, how do you know your security requirements? So one, which is the elicitation process. One way is to start from the business, the goals of the business. I made the example earlier about here in Qatar, we've got Hamad Medical Corporation, which is a medical institution. And then we've got QNB, which is Qatar National Bank. They are in the banking sector. So based on their business goals, these two entities are in different businesses. And in terms of what they require in terms of their security requirements is different. So business goals or business objectives are one way of knowing where you can break down and then know what are your requirements eventually. And the key characteristics of how you know this is your security requirements. You need to know what are the assets that you are trying to protect. And secondly, you need to know what is it that you are trying to protect about this asset. So the second important point that I wanted to cover is, if we're talking about the cloud, one of the key things is to have the ability to measure your security. How do you hold Google responsible, for example, or accountable? How do you hold Facebook accountable for whether they are keeping to maybe the security requirements that they are supposed to adhere to or not? What is missing currently in both academia and practice is that we have no way of quantifying the satisfaction of requirements in an objective way. Of course, we have got risk assessment approaches. Risk assessment can tell you that, oh, today you are doing better than you were yesterday, but they don't tell you that you are secure enough. So they'll tell you that, okay, if you do a risk now, okay, your value is now, you were at, maybe your risk was 98 yesterday, today you are at 89, we're doing better. But they don't say exactly if you are now secure enough against the potential threats that may happen, that may then lead to the breach of your security. So in summary, the ability to elicit requirements accurately, know your requirements, and the ability to be able to quantify them or evaluate their satisfaction. What I see as the key, one of the key approaches, or one of the key ways by which we can address some of the challenges of moving our data to a hybrid cloud infrastructure. Thank you, Mr. Vikas. Sorry, Mr. Abdul. Sorry.
Thank you. Wonderful.
I think it's
wonderful,
because I'm looking at
Dr.
Vikas.
Wonderful, Dr. Armstrong. Your research, you clubbed with the two entities, Hamad Medical Corporation and the Qatar National Bank, which is very important facilities as the data security part. Yes, you are right. And you connected with that. It's wonderful, your analysis also. We would like to move now next, our eminent panelist, Mr. Vikas Kanungo, Senior Consultant Digital Development Global Practice. Again, I'm going to, we would like to discuss with you about, again, the government sector, which is your strength area. We would like to hear also from you. There are multiple private data center facilities created by government agencies in different ministries. How to migrate these to hybrid cloud, ensuring protection of existing investment and enhanced interoperability among them for optimal utilization. What role can private sector play in helping government in these endeavors? Could you share your thought, please, Mr. Vikas?
Thank you so much. I think your question had two parts. One, how do multiple agencies migrate from their own infrastructure to a hybrid cloud? There, I think, depending upon your federal structure, whether you are a country managed by a single government or a country managed by multiple provincial governments or state governments, you have to evolve enterprise architecture for government agencies and notify it, because once you want to provide these services through cloud, there has to be a set of principles which every agency follows. Otherwise, moving onto a cloud with integrated services may become very difficult. So number one is the enterprise architecture for governance, which includes services, data, privacy, security, everything. Single set of guidelines for the government agencies which want to come onto this cloud, so that they can, not only put their applications from a individual environment to a cloud environment, but also, as I said earlier, share some of the core databases, say, for example, identity or payment interfaces, etc., which we call as a stack for, say, for example, a governance stack, which is available to multiple agencies. So one is that core set of principles. Second, I think for government agencies to move to this kind of infrastructure where you not only have multiple applications or multiple individual infrastructure from government agencies being moved onto the cloud, but also a need of bringing the private player cloud infrastructure for usage. They have their own set of tools to do the measurement of how much it is being used, etc., etc. Third and most important, I think, which we are seeing becoming very important in the context of especially smart cities, is that the data is not coming only from the computers of the governments. There are multiple sensors which are being installed. Lots of these IoT devices, standardizing the way these devices communicate with the cloud infrastructure, because they will be sending lots of data which the governments use for real-time action on whatever is being sent. I think standardizing that also would be required, because that at the moment in many countries is in infancy. All kinds of sensors are coming in, and they sometimes become the most, the weakest link for anybody to hack into a network. So I think that is one thing. Second part of your question as to what the private players can do. As we heard in two keynote presentations before our panel from Microsoft and Oracle, there are multiple cloud providers. While the governments can ensure interoperability among their services, but these cloud providers would also have to make sure that the clouds are interoperable so that the governments can use it. So that is one, and also maybe providing capacity to the government to use this. That is what I would like to say. Back to you, Dr. Sathar. You're muted, Dr. Sathar.
Sorry. Fantastic, Mr. Vikas. The government agencies, what are the standardization as well as enterprise architecture, single set of guidelines, how we need to more focus. You covered on those parts, and it is, of course, from your global practice, this message you passed to us. Very quickly, I would like to go to our eminent panelist, Mr. Vijay. He's the CTO of Middle East and Turkey Software AG. And we would like to just quickly to have a thought from Mr. Vijay that which factors should be addressed to prevent cloud vendor lock-in, please.
Thank you, Dr. Sathar. Another good question. Big challenges, cloud vendor lock-in, because like any other lock-in, you don't want to be adhering to a provider for a number of years. You don't want to be locked in, and it needs to be easy for you to move. Why? I think cloud services are getting cheaper year by year. Different cloud providers have various strengths and weaknesses. It's not easy, is it? It's not easy. Let's go back to lifting and shifting from on-premise to cloud. It's not something simple. It takes time, especially if an organization has kind of old legacy dependencies in terms of their applications that aren't appropriate for cloud. So need to be very, very careful. And I think ways to avoid vendor lock-in is, I think, first of all, ensuring that you do have a multi-cloud strategy. Okay, looking at current infrastructure, identifying those kind of legacy applications and considering migrating those to the more newer, if you like, portable technologies that are cloud compliant, containerization, etc. So I think that's very important. So ensuring that your applications are aligned to open standards and are more portable. I mean, a simple analogy that I often use is, I don't know if the audience has ever tried moving their WhatsApps from an Android phone to an Apple iPhone. It is an absolute nightmare, especially if you've got over 5 years worth of data on your Android phone, as in photos, and moving all of those across. Now, think about an on-premise. Imagine the Android system is all the data on your on-prem application, okay? And you want to move that to the cloud, or it's on a cloud and you want to move it from one cloud to another cloud. It's not a simple task. What do? There's a lot of junk photos on there. Do you move everything, including the junk? Or do you look through and clear out all of the junk? Again, that takes time. And that's just your own phone. Imagine the terabytes and multiple terabytes of petabytes of data that is in an organization. So it's not simple and straight. You can't just say, sorry, cloud vendor 1, I'm moving to cloud vendor 2 tomorrow. That doesn't work like that. So I think having a multi-cloud mindset initially to start off with, having a multi-cloud strategy, I think is quite important. Moving certain aspects of your infrastructure to certain cloud providers that have strong abilities in those areas. It could be around artificial intelligence or data analytics or what have you. But then also the other thing to bear in mind is if you're going to place your data in different multi-clouds, again, going back to my earlier discussion, you need to make sure everything is connected and the customer experience does not suffer. Okay, so I think, you know, just like traditional applications, avoid vendor lock-in, the same applies to cloud. Thank you, Abdul, back to you. You're on mute.
Excellent, excellent, Mr. Vijay. Thank you. Thank you very much. You really explained about how to address to prevent our cloud vendor lock-in. And we are, I think, very short of time now. I really congratulate all the eminent panelists. You really propose your solutions upon your experience to make the value to our topic, hybrid cloud management, overcoming the challenges of integrating private and public cloud environments, which is in government as well as in facilities, airport, and global practice, research, universities, all the aspects we discussed, and wonderful session we had done. And finally, I would like to say that 5 challenges, the hybrid security challenges, cloud management challenges are integration, hybrid cloud management and monitoring, network infrastructure, security, and hybrid governance. These are the 5 key major challenges we are facing in this era. Thank you very much for all the participation and sharing your thoughts. And over to Ms. Bridget, please.
Thank you very much, Abdul. And thank you very much, Basim, Armstrong, Vikas, Vijay, and our eminent panel moderator, Abdul. Wonderfully led and chaired, Abdul, the panel discussion, and extremely informative panel discussion. Thank you very much, and all the best for the rest of the session and rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.